never rests.
Counting careless in the sky. What a thrilling time to be alive.
What is up, everybody? It is the Georgia Show, Sunday night edition, coming to you. Palmer Toms, Jake Roos, Rusty Mansell, and we got a lot to cover tonight. It's a short week for us, and tech week, so it's a big one. Rivalry week, say that 3 times fast. But we got to cover Tennessee review. We got to cover a recruiting update because there's a lot going on this week, and then of course we'll get to Georgia Tech. But first, we want to tell you about one of our sponsors, Prize Picks. Let me get that pulled up for us. Prize Picks. Jake and I and Rusty, we hit on our pick. We had to do a little bit of adjustment. Roe and I hit to it on the road because we figured out we had to do 2 different teams. It couldn't all be Georgia, so we included Tennessee in there, but Jake and I gave a nice little high five in the press box when Carson Beck hit that slant over the middle to Jackson Meeks to hit the over there.
But is that not strange to y'all? Like, that's so not typical Kirby to see them throw.
No, and then right away Brock Vandegrift comes in and Jake said, Kirby plays Prize Picks. Kirby's a prize picker, so you can be a prize picker too. Head to prizepicks.com or Prize Picks app and use promo code DAWGS. They will match your first deposit up to $100. And you can get in on the action too. It's simple. Pick a couple of players. The stat lines will show up. They got everything you want. So if you're looking to get in on the action right away, maybe you get in with the little Philadelphia Georgia Bulldogs on Monday Night Football as they take on the Chiefs in a Super Bowl rematch. But pick the Prize Picks app and pick a couple players. Stat lines will show up. Passing yards, receiving yards. You can see here for us, they got rushing yards, they got touchdowns, they got fantasy points, they got everything you could ask for. Pick more or less, put your picks in, and you can win just like we did. So head on over to prizepicks.com, use promo code DAWGS, DAWGS, and they will match your first deposit up to $100. All right, guys, let's get into some Tennessee review here. You guys, I know the 2 of you talked about it post-game and did the immediate reactions. But just, 38-10, Georgia winners in Knoxville, Neyland Stadium. When you hear that, what do you think?
My thought last night, I said this on the post-game show, it never felt that close to me. 38-10, I mean, to me, that seems – I'm not saying that that's close. 28 points is a huge gap, but to me, it felt like Georgia could have gone, 45-50 on that one, man. I mean, they controlled that game so heavily from a time of possession standpoint. The thing that I kept using and I kept going back to was the idea that they choked them like a snake. Like they just wrapped around and they just kept kind of sucking in on it. And I mean, that was really what it was. They took everything away from Tennessee. And it was, I wrote that in our predictions on Friday, that teams that have had to rely on the run, and Tennessee, I think, has proven that they are one of those teams. Georgia's done exceptionally well against those teams this year for the most part. Now, you look at a dynamic passing attack like Missouri, for example, and, that was a bit of a struggle. Obviously they pulled a win out, but that was tougher for them. Ole Miss, not so much, but Tennessee relied on that ground game, and they just couldn't get it going, and Georgia just smothered them along the way.
Last 2 years, we talked about Georgia's offense. Obviously, Mike Bobo doing a really good job there, but I really wanted to mention this. Looked this up tonight before the show. Last 2 years of Georgia's defense versus the UT offense, 22 possessions for Tennessee, 10 punts, 4 turnovers on downs, 3 field goals, 2 touchdowns out of 22 possessions, 2 turnovers, and 1 missed field goal. That is absolutely stoning an offense. 22 possessions, 10 punts, 4 turnovers on downs, 3 field goals, 2 touchdowns, 2 turnovers, and 1 missed field goal.
But Rusty, it rained. It rained last year. It doesn't count. It rained.
Well, It didn't rain Saturday, and the result was even worse.
It rained in a different way. It rained pain and sadness all over Neyland Stadium.
Hey, man, that was you see what, and rightfully so. Mike Bobo's obviously. I think people have just gotten accustomed to Georgia playing really good defense. And I'll say this, Roost, getting back to teams that's giving Georgia trouble, and people know where I'm getting into. The things that's giving Georgia trouble is an accurate dual threat quarterback. And Cook gave him some issues because he could extend plays, and a couple of balls he hurt him on, and a couple of balls that Georgia was able to get him. So, they're going. Haynes King is not a statue this weekend. He can stretch the ball vertically. I mean, I'm not saying Georgia Tech's going to beat Georgia, but he's going to have their attention because he can throw the ball. And then in 2 weeks, we're really going to have their attention with Jalen Milroe.
Oh, no question. No question.
He can do both.
Let me ask you guys this. First play, Tennessee takes it 75 yards to the house, 1 snap, 11 seconds off the clock, and it's 7-0. What's going through y'all's mind at that point? Other than the fact that Georgia just gives up first drive touchdown.
This is what happens? I don't know. This is what they do?
I mean,
this is who Georgia is.
Yeah, for 20 years, I'd be like, well, this is going to be one of them days. And then when Joe Milton throws a pass and he deflects it, he gets about 8 yards on it. I'm like, oh, God, this is one of those days. But Joe Milton threw a pass, caught it, ran for 8 yards. And I'm telling you, for another hour and a half, they didn't do anything offensively. That was it. That was it.
They did not take it. Tennessee did not take a snap past midfield until their last drive of the first half, the one that resulted in a field goal there. And that was a little bit of bend but don't break defense for Georgia.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I did the numbers on it today. I think so. They allowed 75 yards on that rush. They allowed 55 yards rushing the rest of the game.
I did the same math.
Yeah, that's bananas.
And Jalen Wright, their leading rusher on the season and primary ball carrier, you take that out, he had less than 2 yards a carry. And
I think he had 15. I think he had 15 yards.
It was 15 yards on 8 carries after that.
Yeah, so I mean, they just smothered him. And Rusty, you mentioned that the dual threat guys and the problem that's given Georgia. I would be remiss though to think that if Georgia replayed that Auburn game today, especially because what we saw from Auburn yesterday, but this Georgia team, I think, is so far ahead of where they were at that time that that's a completely different game. Now, Missouri is just, to me, good all around. They have horses. That's the term I've been using all year for them. They've got the dudes to make this thing work. They got an excellent passing attack. Georgia. I mean, that one was always going to be a game, but this one, and I said this going into it too. Tennessee, in my mind, of the 3 teams Georgia's played, the last 3 teams Georgia's played, I think they were the least talented. They're not a bad team. I'm not saying that by any stretch that they're a team that suffers, but I think from a pure talent standpoint, I think they're under Ole Miss, and I think they're certainly under Missouri. Missouri is a dynamic team. Tennessee is.
Let me ask you this: where does Florida rank in that? If you throw them in,
there's a reason I didn't include them in the last 3 game thing. That's why I cut it at 3.
I don't know though. I mean, that Florida team might have more talent than some of the teams that we've seen.
More than some of the teams this season. I don't know that they're more talented than any of the 3 teams Georgia's just faced, though. I don't think that that's the case. But at the same time, I think that Georgia again is just finding ways to get it done. Across the board, they're going to take what you give them. And last night, man, they were giving up the pass, and they're just it was pretty unstoppable in that way. I also thought today, I did the snap count. I thought it was very interesting and something we haven't seen a lot. They leaned on Nazir Stackhouse last night. He was in that game for 47 snaps.
And that's certainly a factor of Warren Brinson.
No question. But I think that's like the highest percentage of snaps we've seen from a defensive lineman probably all year, if I'm not mistaken.
And it certainly helped that they were off the field pretty quickly. I mean, those 4 drives right after the 75-yard run, Tennessee didn't go more than 6 plays and more than 30 yards. And, so obviously when you're getting off the field that quickly, you're able to keep guys fresh. And look, the offense is doing its part too and staying on the field and, keeping drives going. And so, you're able to lean on your horses, like you said. You're able to lean on those guys a little bit more. Look, we can't talk this game without talking Dylan Bell. and the day that he had, the day that Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint had. I just saw Georgia put out a little bit of a highlight video of the two. I think they combined for 210 total yards, 3 touchdowns. Of course, one of those was Dylan Bell to Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint. 86 looking like he, he's making a name for himself. Rusty, I know you said that you think he's going to get snaps regardless of who's healthy. What did you make of the day of Dylan Bell?
It's just one of those deals, man. I mean, at Georgia, I don't think Ladd McConkey is in any way, shape, fashion, or form in danger of not starting. Let me repeat that. But you get hurt at Georgia or you sit out, and chances are the guy behind you understands this is my moment to try to get some reps, try to do something. And I think Dylan Bell took advantage of it. One of the Atlanta sports reporters, God, please don't make me mess this up. Did you see the video that she posted? Maria Martin.
Maria Martin.
Yeah,
Maria Martin.
So she posted a video of Georgia coming onto the field pregame, correct?
Yep.
Pregame. And Kirby is standing there, and he puts his arm around Dylan Bell. And at that point, he obviously he knew that Ladd McConkey wasn't going to play, and obviously knew that Dylan Bell was going to get some touches and targets today. Take advantage of it. But to see that little moment before, he kind of knew, hey, this is a good day for you to make a name, man. And he did. The best thing he did all day to me was that contested catch on the Tennessee sideline on 3rd down, because that defender, I mean, that's how you play. He was in phase. He went up. He went back to look for the ball, and Carson Beck dropped the damn dime, and Dylan Bell caught it. And there's no defense for that.
Yeah. Now, Dylan Bell, too, I think, man, if he continues on the trajectory that he's on, I'm really interested to see what we're talking about NFL draft-wise here, because the gadgety ability of him, the ability to do a little bit of everything, really, really such a huge selling point in today's game in the pro league, man. I mean, the ability to take a snap out of the backfield, go out, catch a touchdown, run a nice route, throw a touchdown if you need him to. I mean, the guy is a true athlete, and it's really cool to see that kind of come to fruition. And credit to Mike Bobo and the Georgia offensive staff for unleashing that in the guy. You know, a lot of people, hey, we know you can throw a ball once in a while. I mean, they have utilized this kid to his very full potential, I think, this season. And it's really been impressive to see. I think it's very cool. And it brings an interesting element to Georgia for the rest of the year. When that kid's on the field, if you're the opposing defense, you got to be ready for a little bit of everything from 86.
Well, and we heard from, Dylan a couple weeks ago and when he was playing a lot more. And I think that's part of the thing that's the most interesting here is that he saw a downtick in his snaps. And, once Ladd got healthier and that running back room got healthier, you weren't seeing him as often, it felt like. And, that's what made the, play call to put him in there early and show, okay, remind Tennessee, hey, we've got this as a running back option. And then all of a sudden, you look at that play and everyone comes downhill on that toss sweep and he just beats him over the top. So that was the first part of it. It's so brilliant. But also, going back to what I was saying was when we talked to Dylan and we were asking him, hey, you're doing a little bit of everything. At that point, he hadn't thrown a touchdown, but, looking at it now, he's capable of doing that. We asked him, hey, obviously you're playing under Brian McClendon and he coached Deebo Samuel. How much is that a talking point, a guy that's capable of doing so much? And he said that that's exactly kind of the role that they have envisioned for him and that, that they talk about Deebo and he has used Deebo as an example. So, you've got a coach in McClendon that has coached a guy like that before and is comfortable using a guy like that. And, it certainly helps to have a player that's capable of doing those things. So Dylan Bell, Marcus Rosemy, both big games for them, 2 touchdowns apiece.
I want to say too, I was doing the snap count today and I was thinking back to the game last night, and it almost feels like the Brock Bowers injury was like a hallucination we all collectively shared. Like he's back in such a way that you would never know anything ever happened. I mean, it's forgotten about. I know he was in there last week, played a ton of snaps, right? But I mean, at this point, it's just like business as usual, no problem whatsoever for him. It's amazing to see.
And you talk about business as usual. That's what Carson Beck does. He just
Yeah.
he just shows up and throws for over 250 yards, something that Stetson did 9 times last year. He's done it in all 11 games that he started. So, nothing new for 15 back there in the pocket, just looking super poised.
Yeah, no, a tremendous performance for him. Once again, characteristically efficient is what I would say.
Yep. So, all right, we will transition topics here to a recruiting update first, but not before, Roos, you tell us about our friends at HelloFresh.
Yeah, HelloFresh, you can get a little bit of everything from those guys, right? They're going to send it to your door, all the ingredients, you make it yourself, and it's easy, it's quick, and you can kind of tailor it to your style. So whether you're a vegetarian, meat and potatoes kind of guy, they got that. Something for the family, we can do that too. They got the fit, calorie smart, carb smart meals. Little quick and easy, 20 minutes or less to make them, or you can go pescatarian and they'll send you some fantastic fish and seafood options. They sent us a couple meals out to try. I enjoyed everything I had. It was easy to do, easy to follow the instructions. You can't beat it, man. Great value on those guys. Get on there and use our promo code while you're doing it, and that is DawgsFree, DAWGS free, over on HelloFresh. And that will get you hooked up with what's our incentive here? Palmer?
Free breakfast for life.
Free breakfast for life. Rock and
Yeah.
roll.
I mean, yeah, you see the way Rusty reacted to that.
Yeah.
There's a boat to us.
There's a Bojangles going out of business in Rome, Georgia, as we speak.
Yeah, they're laying people off tonight.
Yeah. So HelloFresh.com, DawgsFree is your code. Get over, check them out. Like I said, they can tailor it to what you like and what you want. You get free breakfast for life. Use the code and check them out, man. Like I said, quality's high, and really enjoyed everything I had. So people, get over there, and if you're looking for something to simplify your life, cut down on your food waste, HelloFresh is a great option.
All right, guys. So the recruiting updates. Obviously, we are a month and 1 day away from National Signing Day, December 20th, that Wednesday there, just a couple days before the holidays. And we've got a decommitment today that's certainly on Georgia's radar. Marcellus Barnes, cornerback out of McCallie in Chattanooga. They beat my NBA Big Red on Friday. Disappointed about that. But, they'll head to the state championship and match up against Baylor, another team that's got some talent. Amari Jefferson, who's the Alabama commit. Cam Sparks, who's a Georgia prospect. Jeremy wrote about it for us over on DawgsHQ. You can go check that out. But
Muschamp's son's a quarterback.
Yep. Muschamp's son, Witt, committed to Vanderbilt. So talented team. They won the state championship last year, Baylor did. But McCallie looking to up in them in a battle of Chattanooga. What's the thoughts on Barnes? Just, in terms of the player that he is, and the potential that he Georgia is certainly on his radar.
Yeah, Georgia likes him a lot. 6-foot corner, I think, and he's a guy that's just played himself onto the board. Even more. And he decommitted today, and I don't think there's anything like he's going to make another decision this week. I think he's going to take an official at least to Georgia, take an official at least to Ole Miss, and then he's got the state championship game in 2 weeks, so he's still got stuff to do there. So. Georgia's recruiting him. They've had he and his family in town multiple times now, and I think Georgia's in a good spot here. But this decision's not going to be anytime soon, and there's a lot between now and then. You start talking about National Signing Day coming up. I'm looking at December the 4th because National Portal Day opens up on December 4th, and we all know what's about to happen there. So every single team in the country, I don't care who it is, every single team in the country is going to deal with this thing, addition and subtraction. So, people look at this as like, man, Georgia's 2024 class is about done. It is about done. But guess what? That portal ain't about done. And there's going to be a lot of news from Georgia. And there was last year. They had some big additions that are playing right now. So we'll see how this thing goes. But, I think people might be checked out a little bit as far as recruiting. I would really refocus myself, because I'm going to tell you on December the 4th, when this thing opens up, it's going to be a wild 30 days across the country.
Thanks for the reminder there, Rusty, because I told you yesterday we sleep on December 4th trying to catch up on the sleep from all this travel to and from Knoxville, to and from late night for Ole Miss, late night for Georgia Tech. We got a trip to Atlanta, trip home for Thanksgiving. Nope, we don't sleep on December 4th.
Now, for me too, not only Marcellus Barnes, something to watch here over the next couple of weeks. You got the Cam Michael decision dropping this week as well. 23rd, I believe that is for his decision.
Thursday.
Thanksgiving Day for him. And Georgia, I think in a pretty good spot for Michael. And they really were, especially early on. He kind of changed up his focus to kind of lean toward the offensive side of the ball. And I got to tell you, I don't think that's been a bad move for him. He's really delivered on that, does a little bit of everything down there for Statesboro, and tremendous players. So, Georgia with a real chance to land this kid. Tennessee also in that mix pretty heavily. Colorado's hosted him a couple of times too, and he's got a teammate, cousin committed there as well. So, there's some ties to a couple of places, but Georgia, I think, has really been the school that's been on his mind the longest. And once they kind of came back and said, hey, we need help at the wide receiver position, and that's what you want to do. Let's make this happen. I think that's probably shifted this narrative pretty heavily. Jeremy Johnson also with an update on Terrell Anderson over on DawgsHQ. Get over and check that out. NC State commit at wide receiver. Going to be interesting to see how they handle that, man, from the high school ranks. Obviously, I think that you're going to see a portal addition probably again at the wide receiver position. That's certainly one of the areas they'll be looking at. Defensive line is going to be another where you're looking for some experienced help in there. Brian Taylor is a guy already to watch, not from the transfer portal perspective, but from the JUCO ranks. He's got some experience and would be an interesting addition. But a lot to look for here in the next couple of weeks when it comes to Georgia recruiting. We said it last week, I think, on the show, man. Like, it's just getting started. This is you said that people are a little checked out for it, Rusty. Now's the time to tune back in because it's about to all start happening.
Get right back into this thing.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, and it's one of those deals where you cover it and you're like, you don't know, till you hear something pop up like, hey, so and so's in the portal, and then you're like, wait a minute. But I'm telling you, it's going to be nationwide now. This one, I don't know how this thing's going to always go because we're all learning, but I can guarantee you this one is going to be, it's going to ramp up again. And it's going to be a wild 30 days. This time they only have 30 instead of 45 days. So when this thing opens, man, December the 4th, the two teams that play in the national championship.
That's what I was going to add.
They get,
I think it's
40,
10 extra days.
No. They get 48 hours, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that plane ride back from Houston for either team, they're going to be on the phone begging players not to leave or begging players to go or who's coming and going. I don't even know how we're going to cover it like as good as anybody in the country. I can promise you that, but this damn thing is going to be wild, man.
That's going to be an interesting plane ride back for a lot of people is what I would say. Like, you're going to be a lot of dudes that you're saying, hey, thank you for your service. We appreciate it.
Business talk on the plane ride back, win or lose for whoever's in that game. And Georgia certainly with a shot to be in that kind of a conversation.
Oh, yeah, no question about it. I mean, this was an interesting weekend, I think, for one major reason in my mind, and that was the FSU Jordan Travis injury. That was so unfortunate, and you hate to see anything like that. It was grotesque, to be frank about the injury. You hate that for the kid, man. He's worked really hard, and FSU in a great spot. And now they got to switch it up, man. It looks like Tate Rodemaker, I think, kind of going to take over out of Valdosta, going to take over the reins down there. I like Tate though, man. He's a good player. He's a hell of a quarterback in high school. Followed his career pretty closely, and he's a guy that it will be interesting to follow. But to me, that's a big shakeup in how all of this looks moving forward. I think
that will make. Are they doing the release on Tuesday night, Palmer?
Yes, for the college football playoff. Yep, Tuesday night.
If you had $100 each one of you, would you bet Washington's ahead of Florida State Tuesday night?
Yeah, I would. And I think that the AP poll and coaches poll showed us a little bit today. Yeah. They flipped Ohio State and Michigan, who Ohio State's been on top there, in the college football playoff poll ahead of Michigan. They were ahead of Georgia for a little while, and then that flip happened last week. Georgia goes to number 1, Ohio State 2, Michigan they're at 3, and I would guess that we probably do see that flip Washington with a quality win over Oregon State.
I think so too.
Yeah, certainly will be interesting. And as we talk about the college football playoffs, Georgia and Alabama with essentially a quarterfinal matchup in
might be the game. It might be that might be the one that it's not. I don't think it would surprise anybody if the winner of that game went on to.
No, not one bit. Roos, if you were trying to get to that game, you were a fan, how would you do it?
Well, there's only one way I'd do it, and I'd go to GameTime.co to get my tickets. I'd get over there, check them out, man. They got you covered on all things. They specialize in last-minute tickets.
Look at that number, guys. Look at that number for that game.
Yeah, 408. That's probably not going to go down. I would not assume. But Game Time does a great job. And what I love most about this app, man, is the ability, Palmer's clicking through this right now, the ability to see where your seats are, the view you're going to get. That's what makes it so cool at GameTime.co. They do a fantastic job of, like I said, hooking you up with those last-minute tickets. They make it easy. I used them just over the beginning of the summer to go to a Twins game. I was up in Minnesota. I was looking for some last-minute tickets. I got on the app about an hour before the game started, got mine, and they sent them over immediately. Seamless experience, cool as a cucumber, and the views were accurate. So I think that's just the neatest feature on earth, and they do a great job. They make it easy. You get your tickets quick, and that's what matters in those moments. So you can get over to GameTime.co, use our promo code DAWGS. That's promo code DAWGS, and that'll get you $20 off your first order. Some terms and conditions apply. Obviously, you got to hit a threshold to get $20 off. You can't get a $20 ticket and get it for free, but they can hook you up with your seats. So get in there if you're looking for your SEC game tickets. I mean, that's some pretty decent seats there for a decent price. If you're looking for it, 6.
You will hit that threshold with any.
You
of
will
these
hit the
tickets.
threshold. You will be able to use the code DAWGS.
And I can almost guarantee you that picture that we see right there, not accurate in terms of the attendance at this game.
Yeah, no. And get over to listen, you're probably not going to be able to use the code this weekend against Georgia Tech because you're probably going to be able to get in there for a reasonable price.
I don't know.
$109. Well, Georgia fans bought all those up too, huh?
Oh,
okay. So get over there and check them out. Should be a great atmosphere full of dog fans on Saturday. Although credit to Georgia Tech because they are bowl eligible now. But anyway, GameTime.co, that's the place to get your tickets. Get it hooked up. Use promo code DAWGS, $20 off your first order. Terms and conditions apply.
Let's talk Tech. Let's talk that game. Night game, 7:30 kick. I don't know if we addressed it last week. That's different. That's different for this game compared to recent seasons. And, I know that's one that he's probably not going to come out and say it, but Kirby's probably a little bit disappointed that they've got the late kick. Alabama and Auburn kicking off at 2:30 local time in the Iron Bowl on CBS. And look, I don't think it has that big of an impact. Rusty, you know things a lot better than me. Do you think it has that big of an impact to be kicking off at 7:30 as opposed to, let's say noon?
There's two different questions you're asking me. Do I think there's a bigger impact, or I think Kirby Smart thinks it's a bigger
impact? We know
impact?
the answer to does Kirby Smart think it? I can tell you the answer to that. Yes, Kirby Smart thinks that, yes, there's an impact.
I can assure you the recovery, the ability to go to sleep. They know those players won't get back to Athens till 1. You always add 2 hours at that age. So you're talking about your kids going to bed at 3. They'll have meetings Sunday morning. So, these kids don't get 8 hours of sleep, and it carries over into Monday. Nobody cares. Nobody's going to cry for Georgia. But if you play at 12 and you're home at 5, it's a totally different game changer there. So to me, doesn't matter. 12 o'clock, 7:30, you still got to play the game. And, I know a lot of people kind of saw, I didn't think about this, but a lot of people, I saw the reaction, were like, hey man, excited because you get to see Ohio State, Michigan, even before you maybe go down to Atlanta, you get to see Ohio State, Michigan. So I think that's one of those things. And, you get to see more games. That day is so congested. You know what I mean? There's so many games you want to watch. But this game here, Georgia needs to go out and handle business and stay healthy and get these guys some reps. And Buster Faulkner knows this team. Kevin Scher, the defensive coordinator, he's coached with Kirby for a long time. He's coached with Glenn Schumann at Alabama. So they're going to kind of know some things about Georgia that most teams will not. Maybe
a couple of players too, in Dominic Blaylock and Brett Seither.
Yeah. So there's going to be some things there too. So interesting there. But I think Georgia goes out and handles business. But hey, I want to say this for Brent Key and Georgia Tech, going to a bowl game is a very big deal this year for those guys. And so we'll see where it goes Saturday.
Yeah, I think Georgia Tech is back on the right feet, man. They're making progress. They're not. I don't think they're going to hang with Georgia. I'm not trying to build them up to be world beaters or anything like that. But I think for Georgia Tech, it's moving in the right direction. Have we seen a line on that one, Palmer? Do we know?
Yes.
What's the early action on that?
What do y'all think it is?
I would guess about 20.
Georgia Tech, I would say 23.
23 and a half.
Oh, look at this guy.
Seasoned vet.
Caesars is calling right now.
I'd say about 23. Yeah, that's a good guess.
23 and a half. So
now, again, this goes back to what I was saying earlier about Missouri and all that. Like Georgia Tech, they've got better players than they've had in the past, but they don't have the horses to hang with Georgia, and they don't have the depth, especially. That's going to be the real separator here. Georgia's going to be able to rotate guys through and, get some rest for some of these earlier guys. I think that this is a game that most people probably believe, I do, will be over at halftime. And so they've got a chance to probably get those guys out, save their body a little bit, and get them geared up for that SEC championship.
And with some guys that are banged up right now, it would not surprise me if we don't see, some of those guys, Tate Ratledge, Ladd McConkey, Ra Thomas, those guys that were limited or left the game early against Tennessee. It would not surprise me one bit if we don't see them this week. Throw in Warren Brinson, who didn't make the trip to Knoxville and dealing with a calf strain himself. So, this is a banged up football team. Everyone knows it. We can blame it on Jake Rowe for talking about the injury bug last week. I told him that in the press box as soon as Ladd went down or Ladd wasn't playing as much and Tate went down. I said, Jake, this is your fault. So if you guys want to direct that hate towards Jake, let's wait until he gets back from his family vacation. Let him enjoy that. But I completely think that this is a Georgia Tech team that's headed in the right direction. We saw it at the end of last season after Key took over. They win a couple games. They knock off a ranked North Carolina team, 2 years in a row now. They are, way more competitive in the ACC this year. Last year they were playing for a bowl game in this one.
Yeah, I think they're fourth. I think they're fourth in the ACC right now.
Yeah, they are. Just pulled up those rankings.
And got Dino Babers fired.
Yep. So, no shot to play in the ACC championship game. That's locked up between Louisville and Florida State there, but certainly a more interesting team. Like we said, they've got a little bit of SEC talent. Guys that have been around and played ball in the SEC. Haynes King at quarterback. Those Georgia transfers, in the pass catching game. So a more talented team. And look, I think it's good for this rivalry that Tech, is competitive and it's not just a, ho-hum, nothing game. They're not on Georgia's level. We all know that. Nobody's going to pretend like they are. But, I think it's better for this game, in this rivalry to mean something a little bit more in an era where, we're losing some of those rivalry games where we may not see, depending on what Georgia and, the SEC does, we may not see Georgia Auburn every year. I feel like we're going to see Georgia Florida every year. That would be the protected one, but we may not see, we won't be seeing Georgia and South Carolina, Georgia and Tennessee, some of those games that we see on an annual basis. I think it's good that we are going to see Georgia and Georgia Tech every year. That's a non-conference game. And I think it's good that it's a, growing back into a competitive football game.
Rusty, you've been blowing the horn for Haynes King here for the last couple of weeks, man. I talk to me a little bit about him. I hadn't admittedly not watched a ton of Georgia Tech. I've had a chance to catch a couple of those games, But, when you're watching this guy and you're evaluating him, what stands out to you about him?
Accurate, athletic, get out of the pocket. I mean, they don't have the best offensive line. I mean, there's times where he's having to run a lot off platform. I tell you what he throws a damn good deep ball. He throws a really good deep ball. And, he was highly rated for a reason. And just listen, he was at Texas A&M, and that looked like that's been a train wreck from the start there. So I'm not holding that against him. And sometimes you just need opportunity. But I think, they've done a lot with him. I think he's got better. And Buster Faulkner deserves a ton of credit. Buster Faulkner comes over from Georgia, and he was very highly thought of, and put his offense in there. But I think, certainly not predicting Georgia Tech to beat Georgia. And I don't know if this will be a game in midway through the third quarter. But I think Georgia fans will be kind of respectful, like, hey, Georgia Tech's got a quarterback now. This guy can throw it. And I guarantee you when Georgia watches tape on him today and tomorrow, he will get their players' attention. And that's good for Kirby Smart and those guys, because I don't think they probably had that in the last couple of years. Like, who's quarterback and we're going to do what? This guy can throw the ball. And they got a couple of receivers. They got a freshman, Eric Singleton, out of Alexander High School. I think he had the fastest 100 meters in the state of Georgia last year.
Yep.
And he can run. He can run by anybody. And they throw twice a game to him. And so Georgia gonna have to know where this freshman is at all times. This guy's going to be probably ACC Freshman of the Year. And Georgia Tech has got a weapon there. They're going to have to hold on to him. I guarantee you that Brent Key is watching his DMs, and you know what I mean? Which is bad. It's a hard thing to deal with, but I guarantee you they're being proactive with that kid, because that was an absolute steal for Georgia Tech to get him, and very kind of on a team that wasn't very good, and this guy can roll.
Speaking of rolling, I thought Aryan Smith, that was a really nice getting him involved the other night with the end around.
Just give it to him.
Yeah, I mean, just let him go, man.
Dude, you've had drops. You've been inconsistent with your hands. Let's hand it to you. Hand it down.
Yeah,
can't coach speed. So
no. Hey, I loved it. That was great play design. Hell of a block by Oscar Delp on that play. Yep. Down the field, a good stalk block, and didn't hold. Let go of the receiver. Let go of the defensive back. So. That's where Bobo not getting enough credit. He's like, look, I'm not giving up on this dude. He's one of the fastest in America. I'll give him a damn thing and just let him run.
It would not surprise me if Aryan Smith makes a play down the stretch for Georgia that makes Georgia fans eat crow a little bit, because, again, you can't coach speed. We've seen him in there consistently still. He's not playing a starter's role by any means, but he's in there, and they've got plays designed for him. There's a motion, and I can't remember if it was against Missouri or Ole Miss, maybe both, but they ran it, and he kind of bubbles around, and things open up when he's running, because people have to pay attention to that. And the moment that he's wide open, because people aren't paying attention to it, because people don't think that they trust him to throw the ball, that's when he makes you pay. So. Would not surprise me one bit if Aryan Smith has a big play for Georgia at some point in these next couple of games.
Some Buster Faulkner love over here in the comments section, deservedly so, man. I think Buster Faulkner's done a tremendous job right there at Georgia Tech. Has really made a big difference for them.
Very, very, very well liked in that office. So I heard tell of some legendary golf outings between Mike Bobo and Buster Faulkner where it was only supposed to go 18 rounds and it went 96 on a golf course one day. So two very competitive human beings, and I'm sure that that they'll do some text messages this week. But Buster Faulkner, very, very highly thought of by Kirby Smart staff.
All right, y'all, it's Sunday, and you know what that means. It's time for Dog Stocks. But before we get into that, one last ad read for y'all. Axia Time. If you are looking for the perfect gift for the Bulldog fan who has almost everything in their life, then you should check out the Georgia National Championship timepieces by Axia Time. These heirloom quality Swiss-made mechanical watches are available for men and women and are the perfect way to celebrate the Bulldogs back-to-back victories. They're making some history, and you can get in on it and commemorate it with a watch from Axia. Check out these gorgeous timepieces at Axia. That's AXIA Time, TIME.com. That's AXIATIME.com, AxiaTime.com. And use promo code DAWGS, DAWGS, at checkout for 10% off your purchase. If you're looking for something extra special, Axia Time is partnered with the Classic City Collective to create a limited edition Kirby Smart autographed collection, with the majority of the proceeds going directly to support Georgia student athletes. Disclaimer here, the promo code does not work towards the collective watches, because they want those proceeds going towards the student athletes and the NIL. But if you get one of the regular ones, they are certainly still high quality as well, and you can get 10% off with promo code DAWGS. That's DAWGS. There's no better way to commemorate the Dogs back-to-back championships than with one of these amazing timepieces. Check them out at Axia.com, AXIATime.com. That's AXIATime.com. Axia Time, watches that tell so much more than just time. All right, guys, dog stocks. Let's get into them. Rusty, you're up first.
Easy. Brett Thorson hadn't given up a punt return all year. I mean, is that not a crazy stat? Like,
That's insane.
how high is this damn dude kicking the ball when he kicks? Like, you know what I mean? And angles it. You know, I mean,
he's amazing given how little he does it.
I mean, yeah. So, you know, I saw a Tennessee fan. I don't know where it was, social media or something yesterday, and it's about third quarter of the game, and he goes, "Man, everybody on Georgia's team looks like a 5-star except their punter, because I don't know what he looks like." You know what I mean? And I thought that was a great point. They hadn't used him, so you know.
Part of me feels like somebody's just going to return one and get their clock clean just to break the streak.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but I mean, at some point, he kicks it so high and at an angle to where the coverage is on you. I mean, that is an invaluable. It's like almost having a guy that kicks to the back of the end zone every time the kickoff team's just running sprints. You know what I mean? But the punt return that's some of your best athletes in the SEC. You know, here we are.
Those Aryan Smiths that we're talking about.
Yeah, we're in the last freaking game of the year in a regular season. We returned a punt against Georgia. That is nuts. They're one of only 2 teams now, I think, left in the NCAA Power 5 Power 5 division that has not given up a punt return this year. That's silly.
Stupid.
Yeah.
Bruce?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with, I think, I wanted to make sure I had my numbers right. I'm going to go stock up on Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint, man. There's some mentions over here. We've talked about Dylan Bell, Carson Beck, obviously. But to me, and I wrote this in the snap count today, the greatest way to be successful is to be available. And he's been playing a ton of snaps for this Georgia team. He's physical. He has solid hands. He's been doing a little bit of that dirty work that they ask out of all of these receivers and leading in a big way from that spot. I think that this guy has just been so valuable for them this year. And just kind of one of those guys who just puts his head down, brings the lunch pail to work. You don't necessarily think of him as, one of the elite receivers, I guess, in the league. But I think he's moved into that, given all the things that he does. I think he's doing a little bit of it all for Georgia, and he's doing it at a high clip, and they're leaning on it heavily in terms of the amount of snaps that he's playing. So Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint, man, hat off to you. Brock Bowers is getting the love. Dylan Bell deservedly so too after that performance. But that's a guy who I think flies under the radar. I'm saying stock up on Rosemy-Jacksaint as things have progressed this season for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And it showed yesterday with the 2 touchdowns there. I am going to stock up on Kirby Smart. And I know that sounds crazy to say, just, it sounds so simple. But stock up on Kirby and the focus that he's got. It's different, man. It's I talked last week about Brock Bowers and how he's different. And, I think Kirby, is kind of built that same way where, mentally he's different. And, he was asked to reflect on all the history that was broken last night or tied last night with 28 straight wins. Georgia becoming the first team to go 8-0, 3 straight seasons in the SEC. And he said, there will be a time to look back on that and celebrate. It's not right now. He's got to go play Tech this week, and that's the perspective. He understands these rivalries. He's done a really, really good job in them. First year aside, he has done a really good job in these rivalries. And so, he understands them. He gets up for them. And, ultimately he did budge a little bit and provide a little bit of reflection. Said that it's fun, on game days and when all the work is done and, but it's a lot of work, a lot of buy-in, and that there is, once that work is done, it's fun to go out and play the football games. And, they don't stress about the streaks. They don't stress about the wins. They stress about being prepared. And ultimately it's that preparation that gets them ready to, be capable of winning those games. And, I'm really curious, always exciting to see when Georgia and Kirby go up against Alabama and Nick, just the amount of respect that they've got for each other. And he mentioned Coach Saban in his press conference said, that he's read what Saban has said recently about enjoying this team and because it's not about all the stress and stuff. And, that us, the media, we put that expectations out there and, that he thinks that there's a lot to be learned from Saban and Kirby, certainly setting records that are Saban-esque, tying two Alabama squads, neither of which were Coach Saban's, but, certainly Alabama has put themselves in that top tier of the SEC, and Georgia has put themselves there as well. Well, that'll do it for us tonight. Programming note, we will not have a Monday Bark After Dark show. We will not have a Wednesday Georgia show. Enjoy your Thanksgiving week, guys, and we will be back on Saturday for a pregame show. Not sure who's going to be doing it. We'll figure that out later, probably after this call, maybe not. That's a later problem. But for tonight, Palmer Toms, Jake Roos, Rusty Mansell, this has been the Georgia Show. See y'all.
Happy Turkey Day.